بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We are starting a new book. This is the book of العين, the dictionary of العين, written by the linguistic scholar, and that is Al-Khalil. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بحمد الله نبتدئ ونستهدي وعليه نتوكل وهو حسبنا ونعم الوكيل. هذا ما ألفه الخليل بن أحمد البصري رحمة الله عليه من حروف ألف باء تاء ثاء مع ما تكملت به فكان مدار كلام العرب وألفاظهم. So this is what Imam Al-Khalil ibn Ahmad al-Basri has written or brought together out of the letters of the alphabet, alif, ba, ta, tha, with that which completes them, meaning the rest of the etc., the rest of the alphabet. Fakana, and these letters are the central point of Arab speech and their words. So all words are made from these letters. فلا يخرج منها عنه شيء. So no words will be made of letters out of the alphabet letters. All words come from the ألف باء تاء ثاء letters. أراد أن تعرف به العرب في أشعارها وأمثالها ومخاطباتها فلا يشذ عنه شيء من ذلك. فلا يشذ عنه شيء من ذلك. So the Arabs, they wish to understand in their speech and in their poetry and in their analogies or their sayings, they wish to understand each other. So all their words were made from these letters. فأعمل فكره فيه فلم يمكنه أن يبتدئ. So this Imam Khalil ibn Ahmad, he made a book now. So I'm taking the meaning of this word أعمل. I'm just checking below. Okay. فأعمل. So this is my فأعمل. This way we are. فكره فيه sorry, I apologize. فأعمل فكره فيه. So this Imam Khalil ibn Ahmad, he wanted to now gather this book, write this book. So فأعمل فكره فيه. So he started thinking about it. فلم يمكنه أن يبتدئ التأليف من أول ألف باء تاء ثاء وهو الألف. So now he thought, where shall I start from? However, he wasn't able to start from ألف باء تاء ثاء, from the beginning of ألف باء تاء ثاء, which is the ألف. He wasn't able to start from the ألف. Why? لأن الألف حرف معتل فلما فاته الحرف الأول, because the ألف is a weak letter. He didn't want to start his book off with a weak letter. So when the first letter was missed, or he was unable to, or it escaped him, then he didn't wish to start with the second letter, وهو الباء. إن بعد حجة واستقصاء النظر, it just didn't logically follow. So he didn't want to start except in a logical way. واستقصاء النظر, and looking to the furthest point, meaning having a comprehensive view and logical thinking behind how he's going to order his book. فدبر ونظر إلى الحروف كلها وذاقها. So he pondered and he looked at all the letters and he tasted them. So he tried to get a sense of them. He spoke them out almost. فوجد مخرج الكلام كله من الحلق. So he found that the origin of all speech starts from the throat. فصير أولاها بالابتداء أدخل حرف منها في الحلق. So then he decided, or he made that the first one he will start with, the first letter, he decided, would be the letter which is deepest inside the throat. So he started with the letter which is deepest in the throat. وإنما كان ذواقه إياها أنه كان يفتح فاه بالألف ثم يظهر الحرف نحو أب أت أح أع أل. So his dawaq, his tasting of the letters, meaning his pronunciation of the letters, or he was practicing and he was trying to get to some point of understanding of which letter he should start off. So he was saying these letters out loud. He would do it by opening his mouth and starting with an alif and then the said letter. So he would say ab, he'd put an alif before all the letters to create some sort of method of pronouncing the letter, rather than saying the name of the letter, which is ba, ta. Rather, he wants to pronounce the makhraj of the letter. He wants to identify where the letter actually is pronounced from. So he put a alif before it, and then he placed a sakin or a sukun on the letter, and then he pronounced the word. So ab, at, a, ah, al. فوجد العين أدخل الحروف في الحلق. So then he found that the ዐyn is the deepest letter in the throat. فجعلها أول الكتاب ثم ما قرب منها الأرفع فالأرفع حتى أتى على آخرها وهو الميم. So he made this the first chapter. Then the closest, the one that was the closest to it, which is slightly higher, and then the next one higher than that, until he went through all the letters, and then the letter which is the furthest from the throat, which is the meme. He reached the meme. فإذا سئلت عن كلمة وأردت أن تعرف موضعها فانظر إلى حروف الكلمة. So if someone asks you about a letter and you wish to understand where it comes from, then look at the letters or the sounds of the word. فمهما وجدت منها واحدا في الكتاب المقدم فهو في ذلك الكتاب. So whenever you find one of those books, one of those letters in a previous chapter, then it is in that chapter. وقلب الخليل ألف باء تاء ثاء فوضعها على قدر مخرجها من الحلق. So then what he did was he flipped over the normal alphabetical order and he placed it according to the distance from the throat. وهذا تأليفه, and consequently he ended up with this new order. ዐين حاء هاء خاء غين قاف كاف جيم شين ضاد صاد سين زاي طاء دال تاء ضاء ثاء ذال راء لام نون فاء باء ميم واو ألف ياء and همزة. قال أبو معاذ عبد الله بن عائذ حدثني الليث ابن المظفر ابن نصر ابن سيار عن الخليل بجميع ما في هذا الكتاب. So this is one of the chains of narration from the book. It is via Al-Layth from Al-Khalil. قال الليث. So Layth says, the transmitter of the book, قال الخليل. Khalil says, كلام العرب مبني على 4 أصناف، على الثنائي والثلاثي والرباعي والخماسي والخماسي. So he says the Arab speech, or the root letters in Arabic words, are based upon 4 types. It can either be a 2 root letter word, 3 root letter word, 4 root letter word, or 5 root letter word. فالثنائي على حرفين. So the ثنائي word, the 2 root letter word, has 2 letters, has 2 sounds or 2 letters, like قد لم هل لو بل ونحوه. So the 2 root letter words are these ones. ونحوه من الأدوات والزجر. These are the particles. ونحوه من الأدوات, out of different. These are different particles and words to gather attention from people, like the حرف النداء يا. All these words are 2 root letter words. والثلاثي من الأفعال, and then the 3 root letter word from أفعال, فعلs, from verbs. نحو قولك ضرب خرج دخل مبني على 3 أحرف. ومن الأسماء نحو عمر وجمل وشجر مبني على 3 أحرف. So even words or nouns can have 3 root letters. والرباعي من الأفعال نحو دحرج هملج قرطس مبني على 4 أحرف. So then you get 4 root letter verbs like دحرج هملج قرطس ومن الأسماء, and 4 root letter nouns عبقر عقرب جندب وشبهه. والخماسي من الأفعال, and you get 5 root letter verbs نحو اسحنكك وقشعر واسحنفر اسبكر. So all these have 5 root letters, sorry. So for the ishankaka, for example, it's the sin, ha, nun, kaf, and kaf. These are 5 root letters. ومن الأسماء, and out of nouns you get 5 root letter words as well. سفرجل وهمرجل وشمردل وكنهبل وقرعبل وعقنقل وقبعثر وشبهه. والألف التي في اسحنكك وقشعر واسحنفر واسبكر ليست من أصل البناء. So someone could ask, you mentioned that the word ishankaka has 5 root letters, however I see it has 6 letters rather than 5, and that is including the alif at the beginning. However, he says this is not from the original root letters of the word. This alif is almost an extra letter. وإنما أدخلت هذه الألفات في الأفعال وأمثالها من الكلام لتكون الألف عمادا وسلما للسان إلى حرف البناء. So he says these alifs were added on or attached to these words in the different verbs or nouns, so that this alif could be a pillar, or it could be a stair, or a ladder for the tongue to be able to pronounce, for the tongue to be able to move to the root letters. لأن اللسان لا ينطلق بالساكن من الحروف فيحتاج إلى ألف الوصل إلا. So this is because the tongue, it cannot start with a sukun. So Arabs, they're not used to starting with a sudden start without a haraka. So they wouldn't normally have, they wouldn't have words that start with a sukun. So if we took out the hamza from the word ishankaka, and we were just to say shankaka, although this does exist in other languages, Arabs don't pronounce words this way. They will always add an alif so that you do not start off with a sudden start. لا ينطلق بالساكن لأن اللسان, because the tongue, according to the Arabs, or according to their nature, would not walk, or would not start with a sakin letter or sakin sound. فيحتاج إلى ألف الوصل, so therefore it would be in need of a joining alif. إلا أن دحرج وهملج وقرطس لم يحتج فيهن إلى الألف لتكون السلم فافهم إن شاء الله. So, and words like دحرج and هملج and قرطس, as opposed to ishankaka وقشعر واسحنفر, where we started with the alif, because there is no sukun or sakin at the beginning of the word, there was no need for an alif. For an alif to be a ladder. So, understand. اعلم أن الراء في قشعر واسبكر هما راءان أدغمت واحدة في الأخرى والتشديد علامة الإدغام. Know that the ra in اقشعر and isbakar, although written as one ra, there are 2 ras. One has been joined or merged into the other, and the tashdid that would be written on top of them, so this ra over here and this ra over here, the tashdid would be the sign or the code for, or the sign would be a better translation for idgham, for the joining. قال الخليل وليس للعرب بناء في الأسماء ولا في الأفعال أكثر من 5 أحرف، فمهما وجدت زيادة على 5 أحرف في فعل واسم فاعلم أنها زائدة على البناء وليست من أصل الكلمة مثل قرعبلانة، إنما أصل بنائها قرعبل ومثل. So the Arabs, so Khalil says, the Arabs do not have a construction in their nouns nor in their verbs which would have more than 5 root letters. So he says 5 letters here, but he means 5 root letters. So whenever you find, okay, so that will translate as 5 letters, and whenever you find more than 5 letters in a noun or verb, then know that this is a excess. This is excess in its construction, or it's an addition. وَلَيْسَتْ مِنْ أَصْلِ الكلمة, and it's not from the root letters. Like how we say قَرَعْ بَلَانَ. The origin of this word, or the root letters, is قَرَعْ. So this alif in قَرَعْ بَلَانَ, so the alif over here is extra, and this ta is extra. It is not from the root letters. The root letters normally are the ones that would come in every variation of the word. ومثل عنكبوت, and like how we have عنكبوت, إنما أصل بنائها عنكب. So it comes from 4 root letters. So the waw and ta at the end are excess. It comes from عنكب. These are excess, the waw and the ta. وقال الخليل الاسم لا يكون أقل من 3 أحرف. حرف يبتدأ به، وحرف يحشى به الكلمة، وحرف يوقف عليه فهذه 3 أحرف. So Khalil says that the noun cannot be less than 3 letters. A letter to start with, a letter to fill the word, to be in the middle, and a letter to end on. So this is 3. This is 3 letters. Like how we say Sa'ad and Umar, and their examples out of nouns. بدأ بالعين وحشيت الكلمة بالميم. So in the word Umar, we started with the Ain, and then we put its stuffing inside, or a filling letter, which is the meme, and then we stopped on the ra, so it became Umar. فأما زيد وكيد فالياء متعلقة لا يعتد بها. As for Zayd and Kaid, then this ya is a متعلق, and it is not counted. So I'm not sure what that means. فالياء متعلقة لا يعتد بها. It's possible there's some sort of clue to this ahead. Okay, there's nothing, doesn't seem to be anything ahead. ووقف على الراء فأما زيد وكيد فالياء متعلقة لا يعتد بها. فالياء متعلقة لا يعتد بها. So he's almost saying that it would not be similar to the word Sa'ad and Umar. And the reason he's given, ta'alluq means something that is joined to something else, or in need of something else, or something that is hanging. And لا يعتد بها, it is not counted. So I'm not sure what that means. We'll move ahead. فإن صيرت الثنائية مثل قد وهل ولو اسما أدخلت عليه التشديد فقلت هذه لو مكتوب وهذه قد حسنة الكتبة زدت واوا على واو ودالا على دال ثم أدغمت وشددت. So if you were to turn the 2 root letter particles, like how we say qad and hal and law, and you were to make an ism, for example, أدخلت عليه التشديد, then you would have to add a tashdid to it. For example, if you were to tell someone uktub, place a qad in the sentence. You told someone write a qad next to this word. You would say uktub qaddan. Uktub qaddan. And then if you were to tell someone place a hal at the beginning of this sentence, or write a hal at the beginning of the sentence, you tell them uktub hallan fil ibtida. So it says, when you are not using them in a sentence, rather you are talking about them with a noun, about these letters, about these words, then you would have to turn it into an ism, then you would have to add a shidda or tashdid. فقلت هذه لو مكتوبة. So this is a low that has been written over here. وهذه قد حسنة الكتبة, and this qad that this person has been written very well. So you're talking about the qad itself, so you're using a noun for it. The qad here and the low is not intended to be a harf in the sentence. Rather, it is a ism of it is a name of the harf, particle. Therefore, you will have to turn it into a three-letter word, because his rule he mentioned before was that every noun has to have 3 root letters as a minimum. زدت واوا على واو. So you will add a waw to the waw. So you'll say لو ودالا على دال, and you will say قد ثم أدغمت وشددت, and then you will merge them and add a شدة. فالتشديد علامة الإدغام والحرف الثالث. فالتشديد علامة الإدغام والحرف الثالث. So tashdid is the sign of the joining. And then, according to the book, they have made the next part as part of the next sentence. So he says, and adding this third letter is like this poetry. Or, possibly you could make this harf al-thalith part of the previous sentence. So tashdid is a sign of idgham and the third letter in these words. Allahu A'lam. كقول أبي زبيد الطائي, like the saying of أبي زبيد الطائي, ليت شعري وأين مني ليت إن ليتا وإن لوا عناء. وأين مني ليت ليت شعري وأين مني ليت إن ليتا وإن لوا عناء. So I have a check of what the i'rab is here on the late. However, we'll go ahead. The translation will be if only ليت شعري, or ليت, give me a second. بسم الله. So ليت شعري وأين مني ليت. So he's saying a statement of amazement. So if you look over here, ليت شعري عبارة للتعجب بمعنى وليتني. So if only. So he's saying if only, and then وأين مني ليت, and why am I saying if only? He's almost rebuking himself, it seems. I should never reach a stage where I need to say if only. ليت شعري وأين مني ليت إن ليتا وإن لوا عناء. Verily, to say late and low, like 2 words meaning if only. So the saying of late and the saying of low is a burden or a difficulty. عناء. So I will copy this line and see if we can find further context for this sha'r. So over here is the poetry of Abu Zubayd al-Ta'i. So it is in this diwan, or in this piece of poetry, that these verses are mentioned. So over here it's mentioned ليت شعري وأين مني ليت إن ليتا. Alhamdulillah. So that is the i'rab. It is وأين مني ليت إن ليتا وإن لوا عناء. So ولقد مت غير أني حي يوم بانت بودها خنساء من بني عامر شق نفسي قسمة مثل ما يشق الرداء أشربت لون صفرة في بياض وهي في ذاك لدنة غيداء كل عين ممن يراها من الناس إليها مديمة حولاء فانتهوا إن للشدائد أهلا وذروا ما تزين فانتهوا إن للشدائد أهلا وذروا ما تزين الأهواء ليت شعري وأين مني ليت إن ليتا وإن لوا عناء أي ساع سعى ليقطع شربي حين لاح للصابح الجوزاء. So he's talking about almost a situation that he ended up in where his lover has left him, and then he talks about how he's reached a point of regret, and how have I reached this position where late and saying if only has taken hold of me, because his lover's left him. Verily, to reach a point where you have to say late or later or law is a position of difficulty. It's almost he's rebuking himself. Now, of course, that's the context of the shi'r. Over here he says فَشَدَّدَ لَوًّا حِينَ جَعَلَهُ إِسْمًا. So when he is talking about the letter law and he's not actually using it in the sentence, then he added a tashdid in it to make a 3 root letter word, to make it a noun, because a noun at minimum has to have 3 root letters. قال ليث قلت لأبي تقيش. So I'm guessing it's تقيش. Let's see if I can find this online. الله أعلم. هل لك في زبد ورطب. So Layth says, I asked Abu Duqaysh, do you want to have some dates and how do you say, zubd is like some kind of fat and dates together. فقال أشد الهل وأوحاه. أشد الهل وأوحاه فشدد اللام حين جعله اسمها. So he asked him, do you want some? هل لك في زبد ورطب. So he says, this is the most intense hal and the most awha of it. What is the awha, the meaning of awha? So he's saying that your question that you've asked me, this hal laka, this question, hal laka fi zubdin wa rutab, it is the most intense hal. Maybe the most intense hal that I have been asked. Meaning, possibly he's trying to show his agreement with, or his enthusiasm to partake of the dish. أشد الهل وأوحاه. Now what does أوحاه mean? أي أوحى الهل. أشد الهل وأوحى الهل. What does this أوحى mean? Bismillah. Wahi. Comes from the word wahi. So this is the English. Go to Arabic. So I'm just reading through this slowly. Let's go on here. Go back on this one. See if it's the same thing over here. الجامع. Same thing. وحي الشعراء. This is حي, which is another word. Seems to come from some sort of, like how we say wahi, possibly could have some sort of meaning of أشد الهل وأوحاه. أوحاه could mean a almost divinely inspired hal that you've asked me. Allahu a'lam. I'm not really sure. فشدد اللام حين جعله اسما. So when he talked about hal here, he's saying that this hal that you've asked me, so he's using a noun to do hikayah or to talk about the hal. He made it a 3-root letter word by adding a tashdid. قال وقد تجيء أسماء لفظها على حرفين وتمامها ومعناها على 3 أحرف مثل يد ودم وفمها. There'll be certain letters that come about where the pronunciation, while it's pronouncing it, it only has 2 root letters or 2 letters. However, its completion and its meaning is 3 root letters, meaning the intention is of 3 root letters. Like how we say yad, hand, dam, and fam. Dam is blood and fam is mouth. وإنما ذهب الثالث لعلة أنها جاءت سواكن وخلقتها السكون مثل ياء يدي وياء دمي في آخر الكلمة. فلما جاء التنوين ساكنا اجتمع ساكنان فثبت التنوين لأنه إعراب وذهب الحرف الساكن. So in these words, yad and dam and fam, the 3rd root letter, it went due to the reason that it had come in a sequence of seconds. And the 3rd root letter is such that it has to have a sukun, like how the ya of yaday and damay at the end of the word. However, we also have to add a noon, the noon of tanween. So yadayn, damayn. So when this noon of tanween came about, and that's a sakin also, these 2 sakins came together. And the rule is, when sakins gather, then the stronger one will always stay and the weaker one will fall off. So over here says, فَثَبَتَ التَّنْوِينَ. So then we kept the noon of tanween, yadayn, the noon of the tanween, because this is the i'rab. This is what shows the i'rab of the word. And the sakin letter, it went, which is the ya. So it became damun, yadun, famun. We didn't pronounce the ya. فإذا أردت معرفتها فاطلبها في الجمع والتصغير. Whenever you want to know the true root letters of a word, then seek them in the plural and the diminutive form. Like how we say أيديهم في الجمع. So in أيدي, the ya has come back, أفعل. So the lamul kalima has returned as the ya. So this shows that the ya is a part of the root letters because it has returned in the plural. وَيُدَيَّ, and in the diminutive form you will say يُدَيَّ, a small hand. وَيُوجَدُ أيضا في الفعل كقولهم دميت يده. And this, the 3rd root letter, which is the ya in these words, damun, yadun, famun, it's also found, it also comes back in the verb, like how you say دميت يده, his hand became bloody. فإذا ثنيت الفم قلت فموان. And also you can find it in the تثنية. So these are all methods of finding the true root letters of the word. One is al-jam', to find the plural. The other one is tasghir, to find it, to put it in its diminutive form. The 3rd one is look at the verb, and the 4th one is look at the tathniya. قلت فموان. So in the tathniya of fam, you'll say famawan. This shows that there is a waw which is hidden in al-fam, and it is returned in the تثنية. كانت تلك الذاهبة من الفم الواو. So the thing that went from the fam was the waw. قال الخليل. Now Khalil says, بل الفم أصله فوه كما ترى والجمع أفواه. Khalil says rather fam, we won't even say that it's fa, mim and waw. Rather the origin or the original form of fam was fawah. Faw, fa, waw and ha. Because if you were to look at the plural is afwah, af'al. On the scale of af'al, fa, waw and ha. Fa, waw and ha. والفعل فاه يفوه فوها. And the verb that comes from the word fah, fam, is فاه يفوه, not فما يفمو. Rather it's فاه يفوه فوها. إذا فتح فمه للكلام. So this verb means فاه, he opened his mouth with speech to say something. So these are two reasons why we will say that fam comes from fa, waw and ha. Abu Ahmad Hamza ibn Zur'ah, he says يد دخلها التنوين وذكر أن التنوين إعراب. قلت بل الإعراب الضمة والكسرة التي تلزم الدال في يد في وجوه. والتنوين يميز بين الاسم والفعل. ألا ترى أنك تقول تفعل فلا تجد التنوين يدخلها. وألا ترى أنك تقول رأيت يدك وهذه يدك وعجبت من يدك فتعرب الدال وتطرح التنوين ولو كان التنوين هو الإعراب لم يسقط. So Abu Ahmad Hamza ibn Zur'ah, he has something interesting to say. He himself said, so Abu Ahmad Hamza ibn Zur'ah, he said yad, the tanween entered in upon it, and he mentioned that tanween is a sign. Tanween has stayed upon it and the ya dropped off, like how we mentioned before. He's mentioned a similar point, because the tanween itself is a sign of the i'rab. That's why we had to keep the tanween. So it seems like Al-Khalil now is almost disagreeing with this framing of what actually happened, framing of the change in this form of the word. So the framing of what happened in yad and its letters, he's not agreeing with it with the wording or the illah or the reasoning that he's giving. He's saying بل الإعراب والضمة والكسرة التي تلزم الدال. He said you cannot say that the tanween is i'rab, that's why it stayed. Rather i'rab is the dhamma and kasra, and of course fatha, that would come on the dal in yad, in all its i'rab, in all its halat of i'rab, in all its different states of nasb, rafa and jar. والتنوين and the purpose of tanween is not i'rab. The purpose of tanween, so the i'rab itself is the dhamma, fatha and kasra. The tanween itself, the noon of tanween, where you say yadun, the noon at the end, yadun, famun, yadan, yadin, that tanween itself, it's there to create a differentiation between the ism and the fa'al, between the noun and the verb. It's not there for i'rab. Do you not see that you would say تفعل فلا تجد التنوين يدخلها? Do you not see that you would say تفعل and there's no tanween in it? This verb has i'rab itself. The verb has i'rab, meaning this verb is in the state of raf', and there's no tanween on it. So if there's no tanween on it, how are we still finding i'rab on the word? That shows that tanween is not a sign of i'rab, or it's not a integral part of i'rab. وَأَلَا تَرَى أَنَّكَ تَقُولُ رَأَيْتُ يَدَكَ. And we also have nouns where there's i'rab on the word. So over here, this is in the hal of nasb, and we've got a fatha there, and there's no tanween there. So are we going to say, because there's no tanween, the رَأَيْتُ يَدَكَ is free from any i'rab? We won't say that. The i'rab is clearly there, the fatha. وهذه يدك, and this is another example. وعجبت من يدك, a third example. So in all these three halat, there's no tanween because it is mudaf, and still there is i'rab on the word. فتعرب الدال وتطرح التنوين. So you are giving i'rab to the dal in يدك, 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 and you are throwing away the tanween. ولو كان التنوين هو الإعراب لم يسقط. And if tanween itself was the i'rab, then it would have never fallen. فأما قوله, as for him saying فموان, فإنه جعل الواو بدلا من الذاهبة, فإن الذاهبة هي هاء وواو. As for the word فموان, in the word فموان, the waw is not the third root letter. Rather, the waw is a replacement for the third root letter, because the two root letters which have gone are the ha and the waw. So he's saying that the root letters of fam is not fa, mim, waw, rather it is fa, waw, and ha. Fa, waw, and ha. The proof he gave was the plural is afwah, and the verb is fa yafuhu. So what he's saying is, the thing that has left the word, which has been hidden, is the ha and the waw. وهما إلى جنب الفاء ودخلت الميم عوضا منهما. So these two words, the ha and waw, were at the end after the fa. So fa is on one side, and then you had the waw and ha. Both of these have gone. They were on one side of the word, and the mim entered in upon the word as a iwad, as a replacement for the waw and ha. والواو في فموين دخلت بالغلط وذلك أن الشاعر يرى ميما قد أدخلت في الكلمة فيرى أن الساقط من الفم هو بعد الميم فيدخل الواو مكان ما يظن أنه سقط منه ويغلط. And so then someone will then question, why is there a waw that has come then? If you say that this meme is a iwad, it is a replacement of the waw and the ha, then you wouldn't need a waw to come in when you were to take it into the tathniya form, in the dual form, and you would just say faman. Faman would be enough, because that one meme is a replacement of both the waw and the ha. So he's answering this and he's saying والواو في فموين دخلت بالغلط. The waw that enters in upon the dual form, it actually enters by a mistaken understanding, and that is that the sha'ir, or the speaker, or the poet, he sees the meme, he sees that a meme has been entered in upon the kalima, so he thinks that after the thing that has dropped off from the word fam is something after the meme, and he almost guesses that, okay, it should be the waw, a waw should be there after the meme. So then he places in a waw when he's taking it to the dual form, due to his misplaced understanding that the thing which has dropped off is a certain letter after the meme, and that should be a waw. So then he placed that there. Famawan. You could say that this is quite what he's saying is quite intricate over here, and it's a principle where certain variations that happens in words do not fit in under the normal understanding of what should happen, and this is because certain words will have a shabah, or they'll have resemblance with other areas. So there may be other duals in Arabic where the waw drops off and then it returns in the dual form. So in the singular there'll be no waw, and then in the dual form the waw will return. So certain Arabs then would kind of perceive that this word fam as well, for example, has a waw dropped off, and then they'd add a waw, and then it slowly spreads, that word would spread. Even though if you were to be highly technical, you would say maybe something like fahawan, or you just say faman itself, because the meme would be so rather fawahan or faman. Fawahan because that's the original root letters, or the meme seen as a replacement for the waw and ha would be enough, and you just say faman. However, some people would almost intuitively, while speaking Arabic at that time, think that there should be a third letter here, and they'd see other words where there's a waw or a ya missing, and then that comes back in the tathniya, so they'd apply that principle here as well, and then it would gain prevalence. So that's what he means when he says دخلت بالغلط, and Allah knows best. Inshallah, we will leave it there. Subhanallah bihamdih. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us of the rightly guided and those who tread upon the straight path. Subhanallah bihamdih. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.